If you have ever tried to improvise over the jazz standards All the Things You Are or Autumn Leaves, there is a very good chance that you have made or are still making one of the most common mistakes when it comes to improvising over a jazz standard. Before I tell you what that specific mistake is, I want to start off with a mantra that you should have when it comes to playing and learning chord progressions. Chord progressions are not random. They are never random. They are always related. They are always working in tonal centers. So when you start looking at chord progressions as if they're all related, you're not going to make these common mistakes, and it's going to be really easy to figure out what's going on in the music. Well, not always really easy, but you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. So before you start improvising over a chord progression, analyze it to see what's going on with the chords and see how they're related, and then you will avoid the mistake that I'm getting ready to tell you about, as well as several others. We're going to start off talking about All the Things You Are. I'm going to do chord outlines through the first 8 measures. I want you to pay really a close attention to measure 5. Spoiler alert, that is where the problem is. And then we'll talk about how all these chords are related. Now let's break down these chords. We're going to start off with the first 4 measures. So this song starts off with a very, very, very common chord progression, which is the 6-2-5-1. So when I am talking about chord progressions, I'm rarely going to be talking about letter names, because letter names don't tell us how that chord is functioning. So we want to talk about scale degree. In other words, how things are related to the 1, the root, the tonic. So for these first 4 measures, the 1 is the F major 7. So we want to talk about how everything is related to the F major 7. So the D minor 7 would be the 6th of F major 7. So that'd be F, G, A, B flat, C, D. So that's the 6th. Then we go to G minor 7. That is the 2. Then we have the C7. That is the 5. And we have the F major 7, that is the 1. So for the D minor 7 chord, we would play a D natural minor scale when we're improvising. For the G minor 7 chord, we would play the G Dorian minor scale. Now notice for the 6, we played natural minor, and for the 2, we played Dorian minor. The reason we're doing that is because of the modes. The 6th mode is the natural minor mode, which is Aeolian, and the 2nd mode, which is the G minor 7, in this case, is the Dorian minor mode. So we're using the correct scale that goes with the mode of the scale degree. So when we have a 6 chord, we're going to use the natural minor scale. When we have a 2 chord, we're going to use the Dorian minor scale. And then we have the C dominant 7th chord, and of course the 7 just means to lower the 7th degree, which would be a B natural to a B flat. And of course that is based on the Mixolydian mode. Then we go to the 1, the root, the home chord, the tonal center, which is F major 7. Now, when you have a major 7 chord, F major 7, that seems like the absolute easiest chord to figure out, right? So, of course, the F major 7 chord is based off of the 1 chord, which would be the F major scale. Now, if you notice, these first 4 chords all had the same key signature, which is 1 flat, which is B flat. And the reason for that is because all of these chords are working together in the tonal center of F major. So they all have the same key signature. Now let's take a look at this next chord, which is the B flat major 7. This is the problem chord. This is the chord that is very common for people to make a mistake on. I made this mistake when I learned this song, and that was way before YouTube, where I could just look things up. I just had to figure out what was going on with it. But this is the chord that everyone makes a mistake on. So when you see B flat major 7, that seems super, super easy. Whenever you have a major 7, that just means play the major scale, right? Wrong. You have to look and see how everything is related. So a really big clue is when you have 2 major 7 chords next to each other. That should ring a bell and say, oh, one of these has to be the tonal center and one has to be the supporting chord. So we already know that everything else has been working towards and around that F major 7 chord. So the F major 7 chord, is the tonal center, and the 1 chord. So now we have to figure out how that B flat major 7 is related to the F major 7. So if we just count, we go F, G, A, B flat, it's pretty obvious that that is the 4 chord. So what we want to do when we have a 4 major 7 chord, in this case a B flat major 7 chord, is you want to play the Lydian scale. The Lydian scale is a major scale that has a sharp 4. So in this case, we're going to raise that E flat up to an E natural. So we're in the same key as F major. And when we improvise over that B flat major 7 chord, we're going to improvise using the B flat Lydian scale. So that B flat major 7 chord is acting as the 4 chord. Now there's something that you need to know about this 4 chord, and this happens a lot. When you have a major 7 4 chord right after a major 7 1 chord, that 4 chord is usually a transition chord that is taking you to another tonal center. So if we look right after that, you can see that we have B minor 7, E7, A major 7, and that is a 2-5-1 in A major. So that B flat major 7, the 4 chord, is acting as a transition chord to get you to the next tonal center, which is A major. So a really easy way to spot a major 7 4 chord is when you have 2 major 7 chords right next to each other. Now, of course, this is music, so nothing is 100%, but when you have 2 major 7 chords right next to each other, chances are one of them is a 1 chord and the other one is a 4 chord that is going to be transitioning to another tonal center. Now, the good news is if you see that B flat major 7 chord and you don't realize it's a 4 chord and you play a B flat major scale instead of a B flat Lydian scale, it's not going to sound terrible. It's not quite going to fit. It's going to feel bad when you're playing it. You're going to be like, why does that not quite sound right? But it's not going to clash and sound terrible as if you were playing a major 7th against a minor 7th or a major 3rd against a minor 3rd. But when I learned this song, I didn't really know what Lydian was, and I was improvising, and I remember that when I hit that B flat major 7, I would play an E flat, and I'd be like, why does this E flat not quite fit? Why doesn't it sound right? It didn't sound wrong enough that I thought I was doing something really wrong. I just couldn't quite figure out why it didn't fit. Eventually, I figured out I need to play an E natural. I didn't know why, but I just played an E natural, and then it fit a whole lot better. And then later, when I started learning a lot more about music theory, I understood that it was acting as the 4 chord, and I needed to use the Lydian mode. If you'd like to dive a lot deeper into the world of improvisation and how chords work together, or just start your improv journey, then come check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School. In my sax school, I have several courses that are dedicated to improvisation. I start you out at the very beginning and take you all the way up through improvising over advanced chord progressions. And in those lessons, I explain how everything is related, how to improvise over it, what to do to make your solo sound a lot more interesting. We just dive really deep into the world of improv. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I'll put a link in the video description below. So let's take a look at another jazz standard that has this exact same major 7 4 chord, and that is Autumn Leaves. Take a listen to the chord outlines for the first 8 measures. If you look at the first 3 measures, you can see that you have a 2-5-1 in the key of E major. So we have the F sharp minor 7, which is the 2. We have the B7, which is the 5, and the E major 7, which is the 1. Then after that E major 7, we have an A major 7. So that should set off some alarm bells when you have 2 major 7 chords next to each other, that the second one is probably a 4 chord, and it is the transition chord. So if we look at this, we have the tonal center of E major, and then we count to A. So we have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and that is our 4 chord. So the A major 7 in this chord progression is the 4 chord, and you would want to use your Lydian mode so that you would have the same key signature as the 1, the tonal center, which is E major. Now, as I said, when you have that 4 chord, oftentimes it is a transition chord and it's taking you to another tonal center, and that is exactly what's going on with this A major 7. It is the transition chord which takes you to the 2 of a minor 2-5-1. So the minor 2-5-1 is C sharp minor. So the next tonal center is C sharp minor, and your 2 is the D sharp minor 7 flat 5, the 5 is the G sharp 7, and the 1 is the C sharp minor 7. Now, one of the things that's very important to know when you're improvising over Autumn Leaves is even though we are transitioning from the tonal center of E major to the tonal center of C sharp minor. They both have the same key signature because they are relative major and minor. So both of those tonal centers have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp in their key signatures. But even though they have the same key signature, they are two different tonal centers, the first being E major and the second being C sharp minor. And they have that transition chord, which is the 4 chord, which is the A major 7. So the most important thing to remember when it comes to learning chord progressions is chords are not random. They are always related, and you want to look at them by scale degree as opposed to letter name, because that's going to make it way easier to figure out how they are working together. Now, for this specific lesson, this specific tutorial, if you have two major 7th chords right next to each other, take a look at the second one and see if it is acting as a 4 chord, and if it is, make sure you play your Lydian mode, which has a raised 4th, so that it is in the same key signature as the 1. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you want to dive deeper into my saxophone world, come check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School.